Again, and welcome back to Cancer Corner. And I suppose today I can now officially call myself an Ironman. So this is the episode that's been over a year in the making now. And actually not far from probably a year ago today, I was sat in hospital with a hole in my head, and now I'm sat in my garden with this hanging around my neck. So bit of a turnaround in fortune, I suppose there. So yeah, so I thought I'd just start this off. First off, everybody who supported me and sent well wishes over the last 18 months or so since the obviously I had to go back into surgery and since I started training for this. And a huge thanks to Ben at This Messy Happy, which I'll drop the link for his channel in below, for putting the coaching plan together for me. I couldn't have done it without you, mate. Honestly, it was the route, even just having the routine of knowing when I was going to train and knowing what I had to do, and just the advice has been completely invaluable. And like I said to you in the message, you're worth your weight in gold, pal. So thank you very much for that. And sort of moving on from there, I thought I'd just because basically when I finished the Ironman last night, it was pitch black and pissing down, and the footage I did get is quite difficult to see and pretty grainy because it's in low light. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a race recap here, and I'll intersperse it with some pretty cool, it's almost like vlog style shots that my son did when he was following us around with the GoPro. Obviously I didn't take the GoPro with me on the Ironman itself, but yeah, it's getting how the race went, and yeah, sort of intersperse it with a few little bits and bobs. But yeah, thanks very much, and if if you enjoy it, just give us a thumbs up. Here we go, race day morning. Transfers are on, and basically everybody's now away. It's not even 4 AM yet, and because unfortunately the restaurant flooded our hotel, my breakfast consists of this absolute spread here, which is buckets of porridge, chocolate and things like that. So nerves are certainly making a big appearance. It was tough to get some sleep last night, just crossing nerves and excitement, but fingers crossed they'll go away once we hit the water. And, it's fine, that's okay. But yeah, looking forward to it, but not afraid to say I'm absolutely bricking it. But let's get into it. Right, here we are, just about to start seating for the swim. Swim start just there. And I am shitting myself. This is going to be a long day. And hopefully everything goes well. And the kids and Jill will film things on the way around. And hopefully next time I see you it'll be at the end. And everything hopefully, fingers crossed, will have gone okay. So
1, 2.
Thanks a lot. We're here at least. I'll see you soon.
Right, Craig's just came out the water. He's in transition to the bike. We're going to see if we can find him in transmission. Hey. Go on, Dad! Go on, Dad! He's on his second lap. We're waiting to see if we can see him. He's doing really well. We think he was most worried about the swim.
Go on, Dad!
Go on, Dad!
A few moments later. One eternity later.
Well, there we go. It's morning after now, and we're just about to leave the hotel. And Ironman done. Right, so might as well keep it a triathlon order, and we'll start with the swim. So yeah, so we started with that, and then we headed down to Pennington Flash, which you can kind of see here. There's some shots of the lake here, just sort of explaining how the swim worked. It was an out and back course, which was 2 laps, 1900 metres with an Aussie exit, and yeah, it was a decent course, to be quite honest. So yeah, we'll get on with recap of the swim. So rolling back a couple of months, the swim was probably the part I was most worried about. And obviously in the last few videos I spoke about I was looking at trying to get some sort of confirmation of the medical personnel that they would even let me do it. So I was quite nervous about even being able to be allowed to do the swim, let alone how I was going to perform on it. And obviously with the risk of seizure that goes along with the tumour, the water was the most dangerous part for that to happen in. But we kind of put that to the back of our mind. I made sure I'd hit the tablets all the time and things like that, and that was it. We arrived at the swim start. My doctor had spoke to Dr. Wasim and the race director at Ironman, and they seemed all happy for me to do it. So yeah, we turned up, we did it, and so the swim was pretty uneventful. Actually, as far as open water swimming goes, it was probably one of the better ones I've done. I seeded myself with the 1 hour 20 group. I was aiming for about 90 minutes, but the line of people was just going through so slowly, and I was getting impatient. You can kind of see in the video I'm playing with my wetsuit, I'm messing with my hat and things like that, and I just wanted to get into line. And yeah, so I jumped in with a slightly faster group actually, and once I got in the water, actually they kind of dragged me along a little bit. And really, other than a few times where people were swimming right on the outside, I think they've maybe not been 100% confident, and then they would cut in front of me. There was a couple of times I almost had to sit up in the water a little bit because people were cutting right in front of me and kicking out. But other than that, I felt I sighted really well. I didn't have much hassle hitting the boys, apart from when we turned onto the return leg of the out and back loop. That was straight into the sun as the sun came up, and basically as we turned into the sun, even with polarised goggles, it was difficult to see the far boys, so I just had to swim for the closer ones, make sure all the yellow ones were on the correct side. But yeah, we were around the swim. There's lots of reeds in the lake, and it stunk a bit, to be honest. And I did swallow a bit of water, which came to haunt me later on, which I'll get onto in a bit. But yeah, swim-wise was really good. I went around the swim in I think 92 minutes. I think it was 92 or 95 minutes. So I was only a few minutes shy of the 1 hour 30 target that I'd set myself. Right on pace, and yeah, really happy with it. Got out feeling really strong. So now on the next part, you've got essentially, well, T1. I wasn't looking to make any time up in transitions. Both of my transitions were very slow. I think I took probably almost 15 minutes in T1, which I didn't plan to take it that slow, but I went through it. I had a real trouble finding my bag, but eventually somebody helped me to find it. I got out, got the wetsuit off, repacked everything, got my bike helmet on and went and found my bike. So yeah, really after that, it was just the long walk around transitioning to and out onto the bike course and things like that. So the bike course was pretty good. The roads for the first, probably until you reach the roof, aren't too bad. There's a couple of little rises and things, but there's nothing particularly challenging. But within about 6 or 7 miles, I could feel my quads cramping already just from the swim, and that kind of let me know I was in for a pretty long day. But I didn't think too much of it. I thought maybe it's just the cold and they need to loosen up and warm up a bit, and then it should be fine. So we got up from, you go from essentially from Pennington Flash at Lee Sports Village near, and you go up to the loop on Charlie New Road. You do a little bit of an out and back, and then you join the loop and go back to Bolton. So the loop starts properly really from Bolton Town Centre. The worst part of the loop is, other than a couple of the descents which I'll go into, is the cobbles around the town centre. It's horrendous, especially when you've got a long day in the saddle ahead of you. You don't need cobbles smashing your balls for your bike seat for any length of time, even though it's like over pretty quickly. It's just not comfortable in it. But I count myself quite fortunate for the bike, because pretty much before we even got out Pennington Flash, people were flattened and stuff like that from hitting bumps and hitting the speed humps. And there was people chucking bottles, and we managed to avoid all those little pitfalls. Thankfully, a few people have given me a little bit of local knowledge, just telling me to take it easy there. And yeah, that paid off, because yeah, we got out with no dramas, and we got off to onto the loop. So the loop itself is, on one hand, I would say it's nowhere near as difficult. If you live somewhere relatively hilly, I would say it's not as difficult as any climb that you would probably do if you live, especially around here where we live in the Dales, in like Weardale, Yorkshire Dales, places like that. Pretty much any climb you go to there is more difficult than any single climb you'll find on the Bolton course, including the Sheep House that everybody goes on about. Sheep House isn't difficult at all. The difficult part comes in is there is a relentless continuation of different climbs in between the start of the loop all the way to Sheep House and things like that, and they accumulate over time. I mean, actually, for a loop of 100 odd miles with no monsters in it, it's still got, I think, nearly 3,000 metres, 2,500 metres of climbing in it. which is a fair amount, and it really does accumulate in your legs. That cramp came back to haunt me a little bit on the first lap. I knew the first climb that I came to, which was really well supported. There was loads of people cheering you up it. I jumped out the saddle just to try and put a little push up to the top because you're feeling excited, everyone's cheering your name and stuff, and my quads just rocked up straight away. They were very, very stiff. So from then, when I got the first aid station, I just took my time. I stopped for a bit of a break, got plenty of drink on board, a couple of bananas and things like that, and just had some snacks, and then cracked on. But yeah, and then I knew I had the one at the Black Dog. That was amazing. That is like something on the Tour de France. There's just a sea of people in front of you, ringing bells, banging these like noisemakers together, just screaming your name when you come up the hill, and it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. As you ride up to them, they just split to one side, you go through the middle and everybody's screaming. Honestly, you feel like a superstar on it, and honestly, thumbs up to anybody watching who was there at the Black Dog, because that was fantastic. And pretty quickly from there, you go from the Black Dog, you go onto Sheep House Lane itself, and again, that's another awesome one. You sort of get onto it, and it's a little bit lumpy to start with. There's a little bit of a flat section where it flattens off for probably about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile maybe, and you can see the flags at the top, and as you ride towards the flags, you come up, you start hearing the music buzzing, and there was I think the Sheep House Wrestlers, I think they're called, bunch of lads all just dressed up with a camper van, dressed up in Mexican wrestler adverts, just same again, just cheering you on and that, and just really giving you a big push through there and stuff. And it is a difficult part of the course, especially on the later laps, and to have people who give their day up in the monsoon rain that we had yesterday just to cheer Peter strangers on in a tri event is incredible. Like, and it just sort of goes to show like what the community around triathlon really is like. There's a lot of people giving up their own free time to help strangers, just people they've never met before, just achieve their goals, and it is fantastic to be a part of it. Like, so other than the cramp and the weather, the bike wasn't too bad. I did start to suffer with a cold quite a lot, and I stopped at one of the early aid stations, and one of the girls working there tied one of these thermal blankets around my neck, and I just wore it as a bit of a cape to try and keep some of the cold air off me a little bit. So if anybody saw somebody looking like an absolute tit fly past with an aero helmet, TT bike, and a massive silver sail attached to the back of them slowing them down, that was me. So, and to be quite honest with you, putting in the extra effort just to sort of probably to go slower was worth having the wind off me and the cold rain off my back. I did lose it in the later laps just because basically the rain stopped and it warmed up. And yeah, then we just kind of moved on to the later bike loops then. I did notice towards the end of the bike loop, I was talking to a lad going up a climb, and he remarked, he said, I think we're bringing up the rear here. It was starting to get very quiet out on the bike loop, but we were within plenty of time of the cut-off, so we weren't too worried. And yeah, I think I went around the bike loop. I was in for 7 hours. I did it in about 8 hours 10 or something like that, and I think considering the weather, I'm happy with that actually. I mean, I could have easily tried to push a lot harder and probably come unstuck. Some of the descents were just outright dangerous. There's heavy braking on wet roads on the descent off Sheep House and another descent before that, and there's potholes everywhere, and there was some really heavy crashes. Best wishes do go out to the lad who at the bottom of one of the climbs, as you come over the tops, he crashed into a fence and he hit it with such a force. It was like a post and rail timber fence. He went clean through it and snapped the post. And I did hear he had a few spinal injuries or something like that. And I just hope to God that he's all right and it's nothing too serious and too permanent, and he's back on his bike soon. But yeah, the rest of the bike went by and we were out onto the run after that. So yeah, on to the marathon. You've only got a marathon to do, yeah, and it seems weird after all that distance to think, oh, you've only got a marathon to do. And I knew from the start I was pretty much I could walk it in and still get there. And that was relaxing to say the least, but I didn't want to just walk it in. I was open for 4 hours, so I set off relatively decently. Now, the biggest mistake yesterday I made was I didn't put dry socks in my run bag, and because it rained on the bike, my socks were completely waterlogged and saturated. But I didn't really have a choice. I didn't want to run barefoot because I'd never done the marathon, so I took my chances with the socks, because I'd never ran a marathon barefoot, sorry. So I took my chances with the wet socks, and it was the wrong decision. Immediately I knew it was the wrong decision. First 10k I did in about 46 minutes, which was relatively slow for me for a 10k, but if I battered 4 sub-hour 10k's out, I'd have hit a 4-hour marathon. At the end of an Ironman, I'd be happy with it. At 3 hours anything, I'd be happy with it at the end of a marathon. At the end of an Ironman, sorry. But yeah, within the first 10k, not only were my feet really starting to tear themselves apart because I was essentially running with trench foot, I started having absolutely crippling GI issues. The stuff that I'd been taking, that this Gatorade that they were handing out on the course, really didn't agree with me. When they mentioned they were having Gatorade on the course, we tried to get hold of some, and it was more the Gatorade energy drink, which was the only one we could get hold of. This was like the powder mix, and it was just it just went through me like a pinch of salt. It was horrendous. And yeah, basically probably almost every lap of the run I was either stopping to walk because my stomach was in so much pain, or I was having to stop and wait for toilets and things like that. I was sick a couple of times on the run. Flat Coke seemed to sit with me all right, so I'm going to keep that in mind for the future. And then Morton gels that they had on that with the sponsors, they were grim. They tasted all right, but the consistency is like thick wallpaper paste. It is disgusting, like, and it's so hard to eat because of the consistency, which just made things worse. So I only used them once or twice, and really the rest of the nutrition that I actually started to stick with towards the end was like salted tortilla chips with a glass of water just to try and get some salts back into me, the Flat Coke, and then when I could stomach it was the Gatorade, but it would only last maybe half a lap and it would end up spewed into a bush somewhere or spewed into one of the portaloos. It was so hard to keep anything down. And really, yeah, the run started all right and it went downhill very quickly. The wheels did fall off. I was in so much pain in my feet and with my stomach, and yeah, I was sickness and nausea, which could easily have been from probably swallowing some of the manky lake water at the time. The lake did stink, but yeah, I'm not going to use it as an excuse though. It was a hard day. I mean, doing a marathon at the end of that is hard no matter which way you cut it. And it could just be that, I don't know, maybe part of my training, I could have done a bit more longer brick sessions. There were a few Ben had planned in, which I cut short for various reasons. One of them I cut short because I did feel sick. I probably should have listened to Ben and stuck that one out and just thought, you don't know how you're going to feel on the day, and I might have handled that a bit better yesterday. So I suppose the lesson to be learned there is, when you've got an experienced coach who knows what they're telling you, do as you're told. Like, don't think you know best and think, oh, I'm going home, I feel like shit here. So yeah, listen to your coaches, guys. Yeah. So yeah, then we were probably on to the only major drama of the day. Essentially the first two laps went by relatively quickly. First lap I was holding a really good pace. I was averaging about just over 5 minutes a k, which was my target race pace. And then the second lap things started to slow down, but I still got to the point where I was at the halfway point in about an hour 50, I think it was. So I was still on for around about 4 hours, sub 4 hour marathon. But in the third lap things really started to come off. The sickness really kicked up a gear then, and I started to feel really nauseous and things like that. And there was huge spells of the run where I just had to walk. And even when I did start to get a run, because I was trying not to jiggle my guts too much, it was such a weird plod. It was just destroying my feet even more. So yeah, it started slowing down really badly, and a lot of people who were following me on the tracker and that, they all said the same thing. The wheels really fell off then. That was around probably about 13-14 mile in. And then the big drama was third lap. I got to 17 miles. I was still making relatively alright progress, but it was mostly like a jog walk at that point. And then on a section where I was jogging, I came through Queen's Park. I got incredibly dizzy and basically felt like I was going to pass out. And my legs just went from underneath me, so I ended up on the grass. I asked the guy who was with me, I said, look, if I start having a seizure, do you mind pulling me somewhere soft so I don't smash my head in? And a paramedic saw this at this point, and he came over and gave me a hand, tested my blood sugar and things, and it was incredibly low. So he gave me this, apparently it's what they give diabetics, it's like a medical grade glucose gel. Gave me that. It tasted probably more like hand sanitizer than anything else, but I actually felt alright after I had it. So yeah, and from there there's two volunteers who actually, they said they would stay with me just in case I had any more problems, because I was worried about going down and smashing my head. And these two girls, I forget the name, I know one was called Jo, I don't remember the other girl's name, but I cannot thank them enough, and I really do hope they see this, because it's yeah, they were amazing. They live just off Charlie New Road, so if anybody knows them, please tag them in this. Please tell them I'd love to get in touch and send them a card or something like that, because without them sort of really giving us a lot of support and cheering us on, helping warm us up and just basically help me with a paramedic and stuff, I think I really would have struggled to at least finish that, or I would have finished after the cut off. Nothing was keeping me from getting down the red carpet, but I might well have got down the red carpet with the lights all turned off, and I wouldn't be sitting here with this. And then just a huge thanks to my family. My dad especially, he's been stressed to death. He's like, he doesn't handle stress very well, and with all the stuff that's happened over the last few weeks with seizures and things like that, he didn't really want me to do this, but he dragged himself down anyway to support us. And my wife and my kids especially, they've been fantastic. Yeah. My wife's obviously been a bit of an Ironman widow for the last 16 months or so, And yeah, she's hopefully I'll have a few weekends off now to try and pay her back for being so understanding. But basically, I'm going to leave it there. The next few weeks of training, and I'm going to shift focus. I'm going to really, one thing I've learned as well from yesterday is I really need to be better on the bike. Not only does that bike need to feel more comfortable so that I can speed up, because that's where the bulk of my time is going to be saved. Shout out to Trevor at the Tri Club, who went sub 12 yesterday on an absolutely ridiculous day. And his bike split was fantastic. His swim split was around about the same as mine, which is just what made me want to work on the bike even harder, because he's absolutely smashed the bike and then done 3 hours 20 on the run as well. So he's got off the bike way faster than I have and feeling so much more comfortable than I would have been, because he's so much stronger on the bike. So yeah, I know that is where I need to focus, hit that bike hard over the next few weeks, and hopefully when we can arrive at Outlaw, we can go for a really good benchmark time for the half as well. And thankfully it won't be an absolute all-day 16-hour event. But yeah, we got round before the cut-offs. 16 hours. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fast, and but we did it. And I can wear my t-shirt without the bad luck of not actually being an Ironman. And yeah, get me tattoo, and yeah, flash it whenever I get the opportunity. But thanks very much for watching if you've got this far. And yeah, I'll see you in the next stage of training, where we're going to really start trying to unlock some of this speed and onwards and upwards. But it's just made me more hungry to go and yeah, to get signed up for another one. Maybe one a little bit flatter, or one where there's a bit more warm weather, so I'm not riding around in torrential rain, and one that I can maybe enjoy a little bit more through better training and just better weather. But thanks to everybody who was there yesterday. The supporters were amazing. All the volunteers were absolutely classy. Oompa Loompas down on the main street, all the lads up on the top of the hills, and everybody just around the little villages we went through. They were all amazing, like absolutely class. If you ever want to do Ironman UK and you want a recommendation, I cannot recommend it highly enough. As an event, it's amazing. It reminded me a little bit of the Great North Run, where the whole town kind of gets involved in it and just makes it what it is. But yeah, it was incredible. But I'll leave that there, and I'll catch you next time.